From the Middle is proud to be a founding member of Odd Pods Media. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 236 of From the Middle. We are three middle-class guys living in the middle of America, in the middle chapters of our lives, with a point of view that is somewhere in the middle. We are glad to have you. We are glad to be back, recording for the first time in 2024. We do talk a little bit about the world of sport already this year, and how some exciting things have happened, and how some more exciting things are about to happen in the world of football this spring. But the theme of this episode is 2023, as we take a look at the previous year and opine about the things that made us sad, and we rejoice about the things that made us happy, and we stand with utter puzzlement at what is coming out of the mouths of the younger generations. Also, we talk a little bit about what we're streaming. Spoiler alert, The Rock is back. And hey, do you have one of them new giant Stanley mugs? If so, we want to know why.
Oh, for the love. Sorry, just clearing my Mountain Dew hole. I got my phone hole cleaned today.
That's where you keep it? You're so cerebral and you're so developed and evolved. From the Middle after dark over here.
We're back, everybody. Happy 2024. It's been so long since we've seen you. It's been a couple weeks since we've seen each other. It is good to be back. We have a crap ton to catch up on, a little bit from 23. We're going to do a little bit of a year in review, catch up on each other's holidays, and hear about how our holidays went, and then talk about some of the things that have already gone on in 24. My friends, my podcast co-host counterparts, how are you? What's going on? Kendall, congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Are in order, as painful as it is for me to say. I'm excited that the team you have chosen to follow has done well this season. I am not excited for the Michigan Wolverines, but I'm excited that your favorite college football team did something.
Oh, go blue. Go blue. I'm gonna let all the naysayers know. That's what I'm gonna do. That's what I'm gonna do. My kids and I woke up this morning champions. I told them that.
Yeah.
I told them that they went to school. We were sitting around the dinner table to a nice Jim Harbaugh-esque beef pot roast with a glass of milk. Dinner, going around the table and we always do this thing now where we share like our favorite thing of the day, and Isaac went first, and his thing was going to school a champion. I'm like, that's my boy. That's my boy.
Ugh.
That's my boy.
I'm excited for your family. And by the way, just so that we're crystal clear, when I said congratulations, I was congratulating you, not any other
I understand
entity or person, or I'm excited for you, my friend.
I understand that. And I'm excited for all of Michigan Nation out there. And I bought JJ McCarthy jerseys for all of you, and for all the naysayers.
Dillon, how are you doing? How are things with you?
Really was a wonderful game. I mean,
yeah. Here's what I can say I'm excited about. I'm excited that it was a pretty good game early on, and that you get a rematch Washington in their inaugural season in the Big Ten. Some of these teams that we've been excited to play out of conference, we're going to start seeing right away in the Big Ten, like Washington, Oregon, USC, UCLA. So that was essentially, although technically speaking, that was probably Washington's last game in the Pac-12, it felt like a Big Ten championship, national championship.
It kind of did.
And for anyone that's excited about the future of the Big Ten, that's kind of how it felt to me. And I'm excited although I wish it was Ohio State, I'm excited that some other Big Ten team has shown that they can win at the highest level. So it's not like the SEC and Clemson and Ohio State. It's like
Right.
someone else outside of the SEC, and ideally, having a Big Ten. Like, I kind of feel that way about college basketball. I'm even more so a fan generally of the Big Ten because there's so many teams and it's so hard to make it to the national title. In college basketball too. It's just nice to see overall some Big Ten teams do well. So that's what I can say I'm excited about without being happy for a specific team.
Yeah. Well, and I want to just talk for a minute. All of the smirkiness aside, for Michigan fans, like this was such a big deal. Like it feels really good, and to look back on sort of how it happened, on how we got here. I'm not talking about the shenanigans of the season. All of that stuff is what it is, but there's a couple of fan bases, rival fan bases, that to them the whole thing feels like it should be tainted. But if you read like the national news, it's everybody's giving props to Michigan, despite all of that stuff. Even hey, get this, Ohio State fans will understand the enormity of this statement from Paul Feinbaum this morning. He said, "I don't think I have ever been more wrong about anything in my entire life." He
That's
said
nice.
that. And then when asked by a fellow SEC fan slash journalist who had to bring up they prefaced it by saying, okay, just because it's Paul Feinbaum and we can't leave on a note of Paul Feinbaum liking anything about Michigan this year, we're going to pose one last question to him. If Georgia had made the playoff, who wins that game? Paul Feinbaum said Michigan.
Well,
so there's that. But backing up to Jim Harbaugh's era, and it might be over, it might not be over. I think it probably is over, to my chagrin. But 3 years ago, he was almost fired. 3 years ago, he took a pay cut and fired everybody himself. And I think that's the only thing that kept him from keeping his job at that point in time. And the NFL wasn't interested in him at that point in time. We're talking about the end of the COVID year. And I mean, only played like 7 games, lost 5 of them, something stupid like that. And there was nobody anywhere in the college football world was looking at Michigan thinking to themselves, this team is on the right path. Everybody was thinking that Michigan was completely bygone and they're going to go up there with the ranks of Nebraska and Harvard and teams that historically had really good football programs. And then now they're just has-beens and permanently so. And that's what people were assuming about Michigan, that they were going to be a good academic school that used to be good at football. And 3 years later, like since that COVID year, Jim Harbaugh has lost 3 games. And he's gone to 3 college football playoffs, and now he's won 1. So super happy, super stoked about that as a Michigan fan. That is the recent history that Michigan fans have gone through. And then you put this season on top of it. And the exclamation point at the end feels a little brighter than it would have been, I think, without the story.
Yeah. I was going to say, in regards to Feinbaum in Georgia, I mean, he saw Ohio State go toe to toe with Georgia and barely lose that game. So I think even Feinbaum realistically knows like the top of the Big Ten can hang with the SEC. We've seen it enough years. Michigan has beat Bama recently. We beat Bama in our title run in 2014. And so it's like they're not invincible at this point. We know that. Even if we lose more often than we win, there's still enough success that Feinbaum knows that. So Yeah, I think that's a nice little like tidy bow to put on the college football season as we talk a little bit about 2023. That was nice.
I put my bow on the season as soon as the game was over. It's something that I am not usually a fan of Ohio State fans doing. Normally my point of view is that if you're a fan, you'll watch even though the season feels like it's over because we didn't win the game. You still need to hang in. I didn't watch any postseason. As soon as that game was over, I stopped watching all college football and the season was over for me. That was such a painful loss this year that I was just done. So it was probably good that I didn't watch the bowl game, from what I hear. And yeah, I just tuned out. My college football TV just turned off after that game.
There were a lot of good bowl games for other teams that I did watch, but there is also no rules for what it means to be a fan. If you are frustrated and you want to dial out for the last couple games, you can. People miss games.
I
People miss
normally
games
don't.
because of weddings and events and things all the time, and sometimes they just don't feel like it. It's okay.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, you
don't owe anybody anything.
any player who is draft eligible and wasn't going to the college football playoff, they didn't care either.
Through that.
So
well, let's move off of
there's
college football. We have a really interesting year. I thought it would be fun, and I asked the guys a little inside baseball. I asked the guys ahead of recording tonight, hey, does it feel too late to do a year in review sort of episode and just weigh in on some of the goings on from 23? So what I did, and then you guys added on, I found a couple of those year in review videos on YouTube. I think Vox did one. I watched one that was put out by Time on their YouTube channel, and I just highlighted some of the non-war, non-political, generally entertainment, pop culture things, and thought it would be fun to just read through the list and have you guys weigh in. And even better if you're like, I don't even know what that story was about, or I didn't even realize that happened. Thought that would be fun. So, does that sound good? You guys want to play?
Thumbs up. Yeah.
All right, sounds good. So starting with last year's Oscars, it was a historic year, and Asian award recipients thought that was cool. Ke Huy Quang, or however you say his name, killed it, as well as his co-star from Everything Everywhere All at Once. I'm blanking on her name right now. So Asians represented at the Oscars last year. Thought that was awesome. You guys
Oddly enough, we can't remember their names.
I know, so important that it feels like a disservice not to mention it. Did you guys watch the Oscars last time this year-ish?
No.
Yeah, I think I did. I remember being excited about seeing who you just said again, because I'm going to mess his name.
Michelle Yeoh and
Ke
Huy Quan.
Ke Huy Quan. Because we were talking about him meeting up with Harrison Ford at the Oscars last year. And then he ended up being in Loki and was great in Loki.
Yeah.
Like fantastic. And he has been in some of the interviews and stuff so like grateful, thinking I was never going to have a career again. I was getting late in life and thought I'm done. And then for him to have major roles, Oscar-winning film, and then a huge Marvel, probably one of the most well-received, if not the most well-received Marvel streaming project that's been done for Disney Plus. People loved him in that. So I thought that was great. It was very nice.
And Daniel Kwan for Best Director of that film. And Michelle Yeoh, I'm sorry, next time I see you, I'll apologize in person. So Rihanna had a big old belly at the halftime show of the Super Bowl, and people freaked out. Thoughts?
Yeah,
I forgot it. Now I remember.
Yeah, I very distinctly remember that from the Super Bowl because we talked about my sort of low-key love for Rihanna started way back when she performed at the Small Oval at Ohio State, and she had barely just gotten on the radio. And so I've been aware of. I'm not normally the type to do the like, well, I've been listening to this for this long kind of thing, but like this was true this time. And
you knew her when her belly was smaller,
right? Yeah, exactly. Her whole body probably might have been smaller even then because she was so much younger. And it was cool. It was cool to see her perform. I heard a statistic today talking about that. She had her after the Super Bowl performance. She had her best download week ever in the history of her making music. She had 166 million downloads the week after the Super Bowl from having performed the Super Bowl halftime show.
Maybe
So
that was people's baby shower gift to her because, as I recall, nobody knew that she was even pregnant. So that was sort of her "I'm pregnant" announcement.
yeah. So I'm sure she made like $1.50 from Spotify for that. So that's awesome.
Sorry, I killed your punchline.
Yeah. Okay.
Speaking of musicians, female musicians, what a year for Taylor Swift, Kendall's favorite artist. Mike,
Another, yeah.
I mean,
I do like Taylor Swift. I am a fan.
her Eras tour and the craziness of having to win the chance to get tickets. Insane. Insane what
Absolutely
she's done for music and the Kansas City Chiefs this year.
I say the following, just because I'm genuinely in awe of everything that she's done. If there's anybody in the world who might have sold their soul to the devil for a level of that success, it maybe is her. Not because she's not talented, it's just everything she touches turns to gold. The NFL owes her lots of extra views and eyeballs this season and lots of extra free press. She doesn't seem to do anything wrong, and I have no idea why. Not that she's popular, but why she's so popular. I mean, there's been people saying like it's unfair to have any other like pop star ever compare their concert tours to hers because hers are so off the charts.
It makes you wonder like what's the secret sauce there, because it's not like her voice is heads and tails like more impressive than other pop singers. Like it's not that. She has a good voice. I'm not, but it's not blowing. She's not like hitting 16 octaves. Like it's not that. The music's fine, absolutely fine.
Yeah.
But what is it about Taylor Swift?
I think she's probably very smart, and she has a great mind for everything that swirls around the creation of music. The costumes, the stages, the ebb and flow of the concert, the marketing around it. I think she's very smart and has very smart people around her. And all the kudos to her. And I'm sure the NFL has just gobbled up every extra bit of press she's gotten them this year.
Absolutely.
It cannot hurt. So congratulations to Taylor Swift and Mr. Swift, Mr. Kelsey. Hopefully they, I don't know, maybe she's pregnant. Some people thought she was at the Golden Globes.
What?
So.
Speaking of Mr. Swift, the Pope wore a puffy coat. So that was really newsworthy.
She is married to the Pope?
Was that a real thing, or was that a real thing, or was that did I hear that was a photoshopped, that he didn't really wear a puffy coat?
Which perfectly brings me to the next topic on the list. AI is such, like we had seen deepfakes before, but now with AI generated images, you don't know what's real and what's not. So did the Pope ever appear in a puffy coat, or was that all make believe?
I can't tell. And frankly, I'm not even here right now, so you shouldn't believe anything that I'm saying. This is AI.
I will say that specifically AI video has not breached the realm of you can't tell yet.
Not quite.
It's impressively close, but in the way that like Halo was impressively good on the original Xbox. Like it's like that level. And even video games today, they're like a lot better. But if you're playing Madden and you see close-ups, it's obviously you're looking at a video game.
Yeah.
So,
do you know what's weird for me? It's AI adjacent. We've seen those Boston Dynamics videos where it looks like a metal dog frame, and then like 5 years later, and then it's like a humanoid frame, and then you'll see it again in like 5 years, and they have like a whole like iRobot like exterior for it now. And I just watched a video where it's like this robot, the AI driven robot here or whatever, watched 5 people use this coffee machine, and now it knows how to make coffee. And you're like, this is getting weird.
What's happening?
And It like walks over and drops the K-cup in like perfectly and closes the lid and hits the button, and then it like waits, and then it's getting weird.
It's
Super
getting weird. And quick research rather shows that the Pope wasn't wearing that puffer jacket. So that was AI generated. But you know what wasn't AI generated? In the Miss World competition, that one chick yelling, "France." Did you guys see that clip?
No, not at all.
Miss World competition earlier this year. The women go up to the mic and yell their country, Nigeria.
Oh.
Yeah. And when she says France, her voice like cracks and it comes out like, oh, hilarious. It never gets old. So go check that out.
We'll share it on our socials. By the way, what if the back of the Pope's white puffy jacket had the Supreme logo, but the red was purple, and then there was the little praying hands emoji at the end? Do you think like it's like that's like the holy edition? Do you
think he should? I think the Pope needs to work on his street cred.
Yeah, his street clothing, by the way. Yeah, I think it's interesting.
If that did happen, it would no doubt get shared on formerly Twitter, now X, and then this thing called Threads came out. So there were a lot of shakeups in social media apps. Does anybody care? I don't.
Not really.
I don't think so for the most part. Unless you love to hate Elon Musk, I don't think anyone else really cares.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Twitter is still Twitter. Or X or whatever it is now. Like it's still the same thing that it was for the most part. Like he kind of like handled a few things. They were, I mean, the business itself seems to be in shambles, but it also seems like that's because he took the blanket off of it and showed everybody, look, this business is in shambles, and that's why I was trying to back out of the deal.
Yeah, it's worth way less, and there's like a 70% reduction in force, but the app still works for now. So
yeah,
this thing that we're basing our life on, and that we're basing what we think of anything that happens in culture off of, is actually this shamblistic thing. Shamblistic, that's a new word that Chat GPT wouldn't come up with. Chat GPT blew up this year, where you can say, write me a paper in my tone of voice about anything, and it'll churn out AI generated copy text. Thoughts?
What's
don't really get it.
To? What's
don't
the
really
world coming to?
Yeah.
There's a lot of other rival technologies out there right now.
Yeah. I mean, this was the year of AI really coming to fruition, and people, as in the general public, seeing what AI is capable of. Like, actually, it's not conspiracy theory anymore. There are still some conspiracy theories, but some of the stuff like made a lot of us stop and think and go, holy crap, this is like a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
Has
coming to
huge
life.
Implications. Yeah.
Big implications.
Huge implications.
Speaking of conspiracy theories, we talked about it earlier this year. Somebody that was very high ranking in the United States military came out before a Supreme Court in a hearing and said that he has firsthand evidence of what he called non-human biologic pilots that we have been in knowledge of and keeping, and we know where the crash sites are. And this was in front of the United States Supreme Court. Some people said it was a distraction from other things. I think it's crazy. The guy seems legit. Thoughts?
I mean, it was debunked, right?
I don't know. What's the update?
I'm pretty sure it was. I'm pretty sure it was debunked.
There were some different things at play around the same time. One of those was this dude talking, testifying in Congress or whatever. There was another simultaneously, some like Mexican court had like chiseled looking rock remains that they're like,
that's what I was thinking of.
That was debunked.
That was
the
debunked.
Bodies. Yes.
Like the guy talking in Congress was pretty much like just saying,
yeah, that has not been debunked. That is still out there. It's crazy to me that we're even having these conversations in a government like serious forum, and he doesn't seem insane.
Yeah, because he's literally just trying to sit there and state facts about what they're asking him, and he's like, "Well, we found, It's not the like History Channel. It was aliens hair meme guy. It wasn't him, testifying. It was like a normal guy in the military, seemingly normal. Wild stuff.
Some people,
there's been some Area 51 guys that have fueled some UFO information that, I mean, I who can say for sure among us, but um who have seemed like pretty normal, like very reputable people. And so the only thing that I'm going to put out there is, let's not forget, even very successful people can go crazy.
100.
Absolutely.
Grimace shakes. Did you guys have one? Do you remember? Do you remember that
I
was a thing?
I sat in a McDonald's with my family almost for the purpose of getting one and sharing it around a table.
Yeah. So we went to try one, something that I was unfamiliar with because we're not on the TikToks. We don't as a podcast. I don't think any of us do personally. We've aged out. But as I was watching a year in review video for this, I didn't realize that there was a whole stream of like online videos of people like drinking them
Oh yeah.
and then pretending to explode from the shake and leaving behind the purple, making it
All
look
sorts
like
of
blood.
different ways of dying via the hand of Grimace.
I just thought people were like having a shake and they liked it or they didn't, and that was the debate. Like,
No, the
you know,
TikTok thing is what drove like the craziness of the shake being out.
interesting. Yeah, I had no idea.
I learned that just now.
Along
What?
with the
Oh,
adult
dude, some of them are like very funny, very
Yeah.
funny. Like you need to
That's-
go back through.
That I was going to say
And
that's
just-
one of the hopes with this year in review is if we're mentioning something that you weren't aware of, like the France video from the Miss World competition or the Grimace Shake explosions. Stop what you're doing, go watch that, and come back. You're welcome.
Yeah, I mean, there's like they're cinematic. Like the way people are shooting these things now on their iPhones is amazing. Gen Z is full of creativity when it comes to shooting videos, and they take the time. Like there'll be like a guy like sitting there on the beach with his milkshake, and then you'll see like in the background, if you noticed it, like a dark Grimace creature just like staring at him, and then he takes a drink, and then it's a jump cut to him like floating face down in the water.
It's great. A few more coffee making AI droids, and we're all gonna have lots of time to make videos. So
There it is.
perfect tie-in.
Kind of sad one, but also a little bit of a Darwin Awards thing. The Titan sub. Ugh.
Yeah, you know who I was kind of surprised came out and kind of approached it with the Darwin Awards angle was James Cameron. Not a whole lot of sympathy from James Cameron when they were asking him about it. He had done a lot of work on the movie Titanic. He was one of the first people, at least pop culture wise, I was really aware of that was doing the whole sub thing to like get shots and research and whatever. And so that's been happening for a long time. That movie came out in, I think, 97. And he really had that kind of sentiment like, hey, you had to be cutting corners and you had to not know what you were doing. We've been doing this for 20 plus, 30 plus years, and we pretty much had this figured out. So you were trying to use video game controllers to run a submarine down.
Yeah, you're building a submarine out of like used water heaters.
Yeah.
Like, it's as
Doesn't mean it's not sad, but you brought this on yourself and the folks that you sold into doing this. So,
You know what else is sad? And this is another one to go watch. I'm sure you've seen the clips of Mitch McConnell just absolutely glitching during press conferences. And it's like awkwardly long pauses where he was just stopping, bringing.
he was having like little mini medical events of dementia or whatever. But
and hashtag term limits got shared more than
I
any
mean, some of these cats, man, like obviously he's not the only one who should probably go because they've aged out of. I mean, it's. I'm hesitant to say usefulness, but they're aging out of usefulness in that role. Like you can't
at the highest levels of more so than most other jobs, you need to really be able to critically think, understand, ask questions,
communicate,
and communicate clearly when you're talking about running the most or one of the most powerful countries in the world. Not only that, you imagine what the average age is, and I'm not. This isn't an ageism thing, but there's certainly technology sort of has a trend with who's using it more than others. And a lot of these folks are the folks that are the ones writing legislation on technology bills and mobile devices and internet infrastructure and cell phones, and watch them in some of their hearings where they're grilling some of these tech people. It's very clear very quickly they know very little. Not all of them, but some of them know very little about what they're talking about in that moment. And that would be fine if they were asking questions to learn. You see them doing it in a way that's accusatory to try to like win political points or make a point. And a lot of times you feel like you just don't know what you're talking about. So it was weird. It was like sort of an animatronic glitch, like an animatronic version of Mitch McConnell was up there, sort of like twitching out. It was bizarre.
Yeah, what you're saying really comes out, especially when they were having the hearings of the social media CEOs. I felt like one of them was like such boomer age that they're going to be like, "How do I change my profile picture?"
Yeah,
while you're here.
I mean, and you have the CEO of like you have these C-suite folks from Google and Microsoft and Apple kind of explaining things like they would now and probably at elementary school, like some kind of show and tell. Like they're giving these kind of answers that are like, well, that's not how two-factor authentication works. It sends you a text message with the code. Well, how does Google get in my phone then with the two-factor? You're like, no, it's just a text message. It's just sending you a number. Like, but it's in there and I see it. It says the Google, And so, yeah, it's interesting.
Speaking of it, that there's, and again, not political, there is the optics of it, right? Like when these people are up in front of the rest of the world on behalf of our nation and can't speak or walk, it's like our president. Anyway, so other countries have kings.
Yeah,
that's a thing that happened this year. I think we said this earlier this year.
Brand new one.
It sort of blows our mind sometimes when you're like, there are countries out there in our modern day that have kings and queens. And we can argue how much power they have or don't have, but certainly they are the figurehead of this nation. And there's a country with a king.
Still got a king out there. R.I.P. Queenie, 70 years. You served almost 71, 200 plus some days. It was really interesting how with King Charles, they really honed in on the sausage fingers a lot. I really was surprised at the amount of press, photos and videos of his sausage fingers. I mean, noteworthy, sure, but after a couple articles, you start to go, okay, what's he want to work on? Maybe let's figure out some of his causes and things that he,
Yeah, I feel like the monarch of England is akin to like the first lady or first husband of the United States. It's like you're there to talk about like school lunch programs,
sure,
and stuff like that is your role. You do the philanthropy kinds of things. You help the other leadership actually look good by doing the things that they don't have time for. I feel like that's maybe kind of what
I like
what
that
the king's
analogy.
role
Yeah,
is.
that feels true. And if there's any validity to the Crown series, it certainly makes his coronation that much more interesting. I've been enjoying that show with Sherry. Speaking of other countries, there were some spy balloons from China that made news for a few weeks. That was kind of crazy, and then we didn't hear anything about it.
Well, I think
How
what's
close
important
did that
there
happen
is,
to the alien stuff?
Mm.
I don't know if I'm the first person to start drawing these lines, but I'm just saying.
I mean, aliens or not, I think what's important is we did what we do best and we blew that thing out of the sky. And I think as Americans, we can all applaud that we handled it very well. So
Eventually.
no more Chinese balloons.
You know what else we shot to heck? A bunch of 6-packs of Bud Light because we didn't like one of their spokespeople. Agree, disagree. That was an interesting, newsworthy thing. I'm not sure how to comment on it much without getting in trouble.
So we can just say that was a thing that happened and it was worth saying that it did.
If you want, and I'll just say it's more of a question, and it really I'm not. There's no the lines being drawn or sides
Yeah,
being
there
taken.
are.
There's no, there's not. There's really not.
Here comes the line.
Because these kind of things happen both directions, right? I don't I just never know where is it important to actually like um vote with your dollars, and then when do you actually need to advertise it on social media? Like, I just never know, where do you draw the line, and how far you go with some of those things. Isn't voting with your money enough? But then I don't know, you got to draw attention to the things you're boycotting on social media. That always just kind of feels like nobody's paying attention to that part of it. The only people that are going to care are the people that already agree with you and would already be doing it anyways. And so I don't have a problem with voting with your dollars. I just don't know how much it helps by talking about it on social media. That's it. That was my question.
Yeah, I think that the answer to that question entirely depends on which topic you're talking about and whether or not you see the boycott as favorable or not. I think it entirely depends on that. You've got, on one hand, a lot of people who would say, hey, the big ado with the Bud Light thing is inappropriate and they all need to get over it. And then on the other side, you've got a bunch of people that would say, hey, the big ado about Colin Kaepernick not having a job is what it is, and you all need to get over it. And virtually those two camps think exactly the opposite about the other topic.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, you're likely not gonna flip anybody on an issue with one of those kind of things.
Right.
So if you don't like NFL, don't watch it. If you don't like Chick-fil-A, don't eat it. If you don't like Bud Light now, don't drink it. Like, or Nike or Keurigs or whatever the thing of the week is. I don't know how much it helps to post online, but what do I know?
Speaking of not watching it, Barbenheimer didn't watch either. Either Barbie or Oppenheimer.
Yeah,
I want to watch both of them.
Yeah,
but I haven't yet.
That's how I felt. I did recently watch Barbie because it's on HBO, and so I did get to see that, and I want to see Oppenheimer. I think it's really interesting that those two things were still jammed together because they came out at the same time. I still don't know what it was exactly that drew people into wanting to watch them both. Just, I think they were big movies. It was something in theaters, and they were both so different. And it just somehow they got jammed together to create this unique, one of a kind thing that might never happen again with two movies like that again. So
I think people love irony, and it's social media does this. Like, two influencers loved the irony of watching those two movies back to back, and so they did, and then said, hey, isn't that funny? And then a bunch of people who are trying to be this person that they see on social media decided, yeah, that's funny, so we're going to do that. And then now everybody does it.
And that's it.
I will watch both. I haven't watched both. Two people I follow, speaking of being one of the people who follows what other people say, Adam Savage said Barbie, one of the most important films of the year, one of my favorite films of the year, loved it. On Pete and Sebastian, Pete Corielli was like, don't understand what all the fuss is about, fell asleep, like, annoying, what's the point, what is even happening in movies. So, like, who knows? I'll watch it.
I think what you're talking about with Adam Savage, he was talking about one of the things that he loved about that film was that, like, there's no subtext.
Yes.
It's all just text.
Yes.
He made that comment. Like, nobody's coming in trying to, like, display the emotion or feeling so that you understand it. They're just blurting it out at you.
Yeah.
And he thought that was genius. And I could see somebody else thinking,
why did they do
as
that?
Boring. Like, this is just lazy. Like,
he said all of the subtext was text. He was doing his year in review and his favorite things from the year. I'm so glad you brought that up because he found that fascinating and a very endearing aspect of the movie. Anyway.
Yeah. I want to see it.
Britney Spears wrote an autobiography. Apparently there were some juicy details. Did you guys know that or care? I'm just glad she's not dancing with knives anymore around her dogs.
Yeah. I heard there was some stuff in there that made JT look bad finally, like, who a beloved pop icon for a long time, and he got some bad press. That's all I really heard. I don't know anything else. I don't really follow either of them. So
Yeah.
Don't
I
care
mean,
much.
I know that like it wasn't this year, was it? That she was like she won the case of getting freed from her
Oh, I think
father's
that was last year. Yeah.
power.
It was,
That
yeah,
was
a year or two ago.
um yeah, I don't know. Other than that, I'm unaware of any Britney Spears news.
Yeah, I thought that was
So
interesting.
I will not be reading the autobiography.
A lot of people picked that up. A lot of people are also picking up Stanley Cups. And I don't, this is the most recent. This is obviously not chronological order. I don't understand it. I'm not against it. I just don't understand it. I think Stanley was a brand that like older fishing guys used and nobody really cared about. And Yeti was the cool thing. And then all of a sudden, Stanley's the cool thing. So I want to talk to their marketing people. Forbes or Wall Street Journal has to do a deep dive on what they did to turn things around or what social media influencer they got to say Stanley was cool. Do you guys have any insight to this? What the heck is going on with Stanley Cups?
I have no more insight than you or the other 4,700 LinkedIn articles about it. But the only thing you know me, I'm rarely contrarian, if ever, a contrarian for contrarian's sake. I'm kind of almost at the point though with this where I'm like, I don't even want one. Don't buy me one. I'm not going to keep it. I don't want to use it. I don't want it. I don't need it. And I'm kind of that way with like all the travel mugs, to be honest with you. There's so many, they all do the same thing. 98% of them leak. That's not helpful. I'll just use a cup if they're going to leak anyways. And I'm almost getting to the point with Stanley where it's like, I want to not have one now just to say I don't have one. And I don't even ever get that way.
Well,
It
and
feels like when Jim talks about being frazzled on The Office and he's like, I don't like to use that word. I'm almost frazzled by the Stanley thing, and I don't understand.
but it's a specific Stanley mug. It's a particular name, particular size that they're all going crazy over. I know only because I've had Stanley products over the years that Stanley has never gone away. Like I think they were creating thermoses before Thermos was even a company. I think the Stanley, like what we know of as like the big coffee thermos, I think Stanley was the originator of that product. And then they kind of went on from there and did all kinds of things and have still been on shelves. And they've been like keeping up with the Yetis and the Thermos brand and the Camelback and things like that. Like they've always had similar products on shelves as everyone else. My understanding is, including this particular cup that people are going crazy about now. Like it's been around for a long time. And then if I'm remembering what I'm reading correctly, Stanley was nixing it or getting ready to just discontinue that line when there were some particular influencers that loved it, contacted Stanley and said, "Hey, don't do it because we love this cup." And then they like made it a big deal. And now Stanley is like doing mashups with other brands to make this cup, and people are shooting each other at Target over it. And
I was gonna say I saw the video of like some kind of collab where people are like ripping it off a display thing in the middle of an aisle, and it looks like one of those Black Friday trampling people videos. I mean, seriously, it's ridiculous. I don't know. It's a cup. Everybody and their brother has 16 of them from the different jobs that they've had.
It's the social media thing, man. It's a social media thing, and I think that Stanley just kind of hit the lottery on it. I don't think they did anything other than just didn't discontinue the product when it started to get hot.
They didn't let their business close after 115 years. That's all they've done. They're just still here. They're just still here making stuff.
I'm skimming an article now that I should have read ahead of recording because I put the dang line item in the year in review. But it's basically the Quenchers is the name of the tumbler, $45. It talks about the history of the company, how they rebranded and switched strategy, partnered with some some people from The Bachelor and Bachelorette, and then partnered with Lainey Wilson, and then they came up with cute colors, and I'm skimming like 19 paragraphs to say they just turned it around and it took off. So there's probably some lessons to be learned there for other companies, but yeah, it's fascinating.
Indeed. And as far as like Yeti, because Yeti obviously is Yeti, like they went crazy. also not a leak-proof product, not the normal Yeti that like first went viral. That was not a leak-proof product. It just was what it was, and other companies make virtually the exact same thing. And but I mean, the Stanley version, as well as like the Orca version and other versions, are about half the price of the Yeti, and so there is that. There is that.
Yeah. More power to them all for convincing people that they should buy it. God,
Yeah,
I mean,
winding down here, just a few more before the break. One of you wrote inflation. Thoughts on that?
yeah, that's just been an interesting thing to watch and hear people complain about this year, including myself. It's, it's just been fascinating. It's pretty much like what's been well established is this is more than just inflation. This isn't like, we're going to raise the price of our burgers 20 cents to account for increased supply costs from the last couple of years. This is just borderline profiteering by like food service and retail places. And the question at this point really is just how long can they get away with it? And what's the breaking point for consumers with fast food? I think it's interesting. What I find most fascinating is hearing people's thought processes on when the breaking point is, and then hearing them make comparisons to other businesses or businesses within the same category. As an example, how expensive does Taco Bell or Chipotle have to be before I just go to the taqueria down the street or the street cart and I can get fresh burrito, and fresh tacos for $3.50 a piece, and Taco Bell's charging $4.50 for a double decker taco, I'm not going to go to McDonald's. There was the McDonald's in Delaware, I think, had their Big Mac combos $18 or something in New England, and somebody's like, I can literally go to, Applebee's, TGI Fridays, insert chain, and get a bigger burger with fries and unlimited chips at Chili's for $12.99. There's no reason their costs should be through the roof like this. So it's just interesting. It's interesting hearing people decide what's important, what's not important, what they're going to do instead, like the strategy of it, and pushing against these companies on social media. And none of these companies are really responding yet. So far, they've all just kept doing it. It's happening with groceries. It's happening with lots of stuff. So it's just interesting. The whole sort of discussion wrapped around it, I find intriguing.
Well, I think you're making a broad assumption that it is strictly a profiteering thing and that there's no other economics involved here. I think there are other economics involved there. But so I don't think it's as nefarious as you think it is.
Maybe not.
But I mean, I think they're still the same companies running the same way as they were before. So if they were greedy before, they're greedy now. Like nothing changed there. But I mean, the fact still remains that, like, I mean, I am a proponent of supply and demand, and that's the way that things ought to go.
Sure.
And if it actually is profiteering and people actually are fed up, then people need to either stop buying McDonald's or like keep your opinion to yourself.
Look, and I'm not saying
that's kind of my view on it.
Hey, that's what we said earlier.
I'm not saying companies can't charge what they want to charge. What we're talking about is a breakdown. If they say our costs have gone up, so we've raised the prices, and all the experts in industries are saying the real operational costs have increased by 6% and their prices have gone up 300%. It's that kind of stuff that we're talking about. It's all 7-Up, a 12-pack of 7-Up didn't go from costing $1.99 3 years ago to $8.99 now. Their costs haven't gone up that much. So we are talking about companies that are really pushing, and they can do whatever they want. I'm just saying it's interesting to hear the discussion around what basically appears to be taking advantage or profiteering, using the idea of inflation is going up to mask, for some companies, huge price increases and then passing it all off dishonestly as well, this is just inflation and transportation and gas costs more now. that's what I find interesting. If people are actually increasing prices like normal, fine, that's one thing. But the cost of aluminum and gas for trucks hasn't gone up. That a 12 pack of Coke shouldn't be $9, now or
Well,
whatever.
whatever is going on behind the scenes and whatever the motivations, case in point, today is my eldest daughter's 17th birthday. Happy birthday, Lily. She asked for Taco Bell. Just her and I went to Taco Bell. Grand total, $33.
Ouch.
Just her and I.
Wow.
So
Just her and I went, and I got 4 items.
So great example. If the taqueria can charge $3 a taco and you could have eaten for 15 there, their costs can't be that much higher that they charge, 2 or 3 times for lesser ingredients. And I think that's part
maybe not. I mean, without seeing the sheets on their businesses, you don't know the answer to that question. You're speculating.
I of course I am, but again, some of it is obvious and some of it, is borderline. Again, they can charge whatever they want, but I think it's easy to point out that there are certainly some situations that are more than just inflationary cost increases.
Yes. I guess what I'm trying to get at is that I agree with you that it's happening in some cases. I don't think that we can blame the overall inflation on profiteering. I think the overall inflation is based on a lot of other factors.
Oh, I'm not blaming inflation on profiteering. What I'm saying is companies are using inflation as an excuse.
Some are. I don't think that that's necessarily the norm.
Okay, debatable, but it is interesting.
It is debatable, and that's my point.
That's what I find interesting is to see some of these companies doing it and then the consumer reaction, which is where I agree with you. The consumer is who gets to decide. So it's interesting.
The consumer holds all the.
Watching them get to decide where's the breaking point. That's why I use that term. Yep. Where's the breaking point for each consumer? Where do because I agree with you, where's the comparison point start getting made? Well, I can go to my local Applebee's for $12.99 for a burger versus $18 in McDonald's. That's what's interesting, watching people decide. Again, I don't necessarily need everyone and their brother to boycott and tell me about it on social media, but when you're seeing articles break down the percentages and the here's the consumer feedback and they're seeing this percent of decrease, and it's just interesting to watch. So for any of those companies pushing the boundaries, they'll get to see how far they can push, and just interesting to watch.
It's like the thing about Jordans from back in the day when it was unheard of to charge $100 for a pair of sneakers. And why, Nike, why are you doing that? Because people will pay it.
Yeah. and if people keep paying for it, then these companies can keep charging for now whatever they want.
An interesting time for sure. So interesting that our former president has a mugshot.
Yeah. I only noteworthy because it's the first president to ever have a mugshot. And I thought that was kind of a major news story in 2023. Whether you like the guy or not.
Very much so, yeah.
Whether you like him or not or think he deserved it or not, it's a thing that happened. And so it's kind of interesting.
A thing that happened. It probably feels too big a topic to start diving into any, especially quote unquote big or any of our favorite movies or favorite things that came out this year. But maybe before the break, just calling out a few special to us celebrities that we lost this year. We compiled a quick list, but I want you guys to add to it. Alan Arkin, I always loved watching him in things. Michael Gambon, who played oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his name. And
Dumbledore,
Dinglebots, or whatever his name is from Harry Potter. Of course, Matthew Perry. We had a lovely tribute to him in an earlier episode this season. Michael Gambon, Ray Stevenson, Bob Barker, Tony Bennett. Any others that you guys remember from this year, or just sort of say a special few words about?
Big one for a lot of people, Tina Turner.
Yeah.
That was another big one, big icon there. I think that was a nice list. There's always plenty. It's nice to go back and watch those. But I thought that was kind of the highlight reel.
So I just thought it was interesting, and then we'll go to break. And the first comment on I think it was the Vox 2023 in review. The first and most voted comment underneath the video was 2023 felt like the longest yet shortest year ever. And that certainly rang true for me. Was this our first year with no real COVID restrictions, or like part of 2022 was still COVID stuff, but was this our first full year completely free?
I think so.
I think
so.
and so for that reason, it just felt like really long and really short at the same time. Like so much happened, and it feels like yesterday we were having this same conversation about 2022.
Yeah.
Anyway, this feels like a great spot to take a quick break and hear from some of our friends in Odd Pods Media.
If you like fun, then you're gonna love the Beard Owl Podcast. It's a podcast where we talk about two of the greatest things in the world, beer and Weird Al. And frankly, we talk more about Weird Al than anything because he's the gift that keeps on giving. So join us as we talk through Weird Al's career, what he means to us, and we have some very special guests on to discuss the magic that is Alfred Matthew Yankovic. Beard Al, part of the Odd Pods Media Network.
And we're back. So another little behind the scenes thing. There's been something in the note that Dillon, Kendall, and I share each week to sort of mention some of the things we may or may not hit on. And I've had this one in here for 6 weeks, 2 months. I don't know. I watched a video that I think was originally on TikTok, but made its way onto Instagram on one of those cringe pages that I'm now obsessed with. And it's cringy because it's like 7 to 10 geeky college guys doing a rendition of the Hallelujah song that we're all familiar with, that originally was made popular by Shrek and blah, blah, blah. But they've changed the lyrics to all these slang terms that Gen Z will be aware of. I'm not going to sing it, but some of the things mentioned in their rendition of Hallelujah is baby Gronk, Livy Dunn, the term gyat, fonk, rizzler, sigma, and then some others that I was just aware of from this year are the skibbity toilet craze videos, and this whole how often do you think about the Roman Empire thing. Those last couple were not in the song, but are you guys familiar at all with baby Gronk, Livy Dunn, gyat, fonk, rizzler, sigma, any of those?
No to all of those.
All of those things sound like alien words before the Star Trek person turns on their like decoder, like the translator, universal translator. That sounds like an alien language. I know what none of those words mean. I have no context.
I would have a hard time even taking a stab at what they might mean.
Yeah, I know that I've seen the Roman Empire videos. Those are funny.
Okay, yeah, we did talk about those a couple weeks ago. So I had to look a bunch of these up, and I'm gonna mess them up, but that's what part of what makes this fun. And I think the reason is none of us are on TikTok, right?
Right.
So because
really,
because TikTok has become so viral and none of us are on it, we see the spillover that makes its way or gets also shared on Instagram. But if you're not on TikTok, I think we're missing a lot of this stuff. Baby Gronk is named after Rob Gronkowski, but he's this like young, he's got to be like 10, and I guess he plays football. He's a good-looking 10-year-old kid, but like part of the thing that he does now is like he acts like he's gonna go on dates with your mom, like the mother of people our age. Or people his age, so like people our age or the generation older. So he's
talking about like my wife, not my mom.
Right.
Got it.
So he's like this. If all this does is just inspire people to comment and tell me that I'm wrong in my understanding of who this kid is, and he'd be one of those kids with like big chains, dancing to rap videos, holding those Prime things, and he's just gone viral because it's a thing. So Livy Dunn is a gymnast at LSU who is very, very attractive, blonde, very tiny waist, and very fit. And she's popular because of obvious reasons on social media. Gyat, Gyatt, is a slang term for, I think, either a girl in general or her plump tight end. And it stems from, if you would see this person walk by, you'd go, yeah, damn. So it's Gytt for she got a big old gyat, or yeah.
So you don't know if it's referring to the person or to the posterior of the person.
I think it's the latter. Let me just, this is so corny that I'm so it can just mean strong excitement, surprise, or admiration. So you're just going, yeah, like damn, like, but so usually it's used in reference to what I was talking about.
Anytime that you would potentially use that phrase and with that tone of voice, you could substitute it with gyat.
Yeah.
Is that maybe what I'm getting?
Gyat or gyat is a slang term that is used to express strong excitement, surprise, or admiration. Gyat is most commonly used as an exclamation in reaction to seeing a large butt, and may be used as a noun to mean a large butt. So it's she got gyat, or gyat, she got gyat.
Okay.
Oh boy, this is cringy. Riz and rizzler. So riz is short for charisma.
Oh yeah, we talked about that one.
And rizzler is someone who has much charisma and is good with the opposite sex.
Got it.
So baby Gronk would be a rizzler to Mac on Lippy Dunn.
Did you do funk already?
I think that's a style of music.
Wow.
How's it different from funk? Or are they just think they came up with a cool new way to say it?
It's underground hip hop originating in Memphis. So it's characterized by dark atmosphere, hypnotic samples, and powerful bass lines. Old soul, funk, and R&B tracks, they slow it down, they pitch it and manipulate it to create unique compositions. So it's like drift funk or funk rap are branches of that tree. So that's fun. And let's see what else was on. Just another example of how little I understand Gen Z. And I just heard that that they've already got the next generation as Gen Alpha. So we're starting over, and that's getting crazy. So
taking it from the top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We always have fun with
Gen
slang.
Alpha, when you're listening to this in 18 years, don't let the fact that you're called Gen Alpha go to your head.
Yeah.
And we're going to go Greek now.
Okay.
So that we're starting over and going Greek. Is that what it is?
Is that like what tropical storms do? They
Maybe.
like start over and then have they alternate the sex of the name.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Look at us pretending to know things. Hey, I want to point something out for all the listeners out there who need to hear it. One of the reasons why we started this podcast was to prove to each other that you can talk to each other. And I want to point out that it doesn't happen very often among the three of us, because the three of us value whatever in each other. But Dillon and I had a disagreement. We disagree on profiteering and corporations and some generalizations. We stand in two different places on what can be a very divisive topic, and we did not agree with each other on most things. But here we are, still friends, still able to talk to one another, even though we know each other disagrees with the thing that we said. And I had that thought, like, even while we were doing it, was like, see, this is the kind of thing that, like, we talked about this when we started the podcast. Not that we were like looking to have disagreements with each other, but to show people like you can converse and you can hang out and you can be with other people. And so I don't know if we're getting into New Year's resolutions or not, but I think maybe as a nation, because I feel like we're we're the peace brokers of America. That's what we are From the Middle. I think
Not to overstate it or anything.
I'm not overstating. It was our agent Ludacris, and I talked about this, and we all had a meeting and decided that what we want for America in 2024 is to be able to have disagreements with each other, and not villainize one another over it. That's what we want. That's what I want for you, and that's all. I wanted to make sure I got that in.
Beautifully said,
Yeah,
Kendall. I'm glad you highlighted that.
I think what's nice too is part of that conversation, there's still active listening and there's not assumptions being made that if like we had continued to have that conversation, that this isn't every single company in the face of the planet is trying to take advantage of consumer. That wasn't my point.
Well,
my point was in certain areas, especially certain industries, people have noticed more so this is happening and are discussing it, and I find it interesting.
To be fair, my official political alignment is evil fascist.
Mm-hmm.
And your official political alignment is socialist tool. And the two of us can still get along.
Yeah, I've never even been called a socialist before.
Without any presumptions.
Yeah, I don't know.
That was me over presuming what people listening to that argument might presume about me or you.
Yeah.
When the reality is, like, they would probably, many of them, be very surprised if they were to look at like our voting histories.
Yeah,
or whatever, as far as like who we have or have not voted for.
If you know me well enough, you just know that whole topic came from the fact that I'm mad that Doritos Locos Tacos cost more than $1 and Mountain Dew costs more than $2.99 for a 12-pack. That's what I was getting to.
That's
I'm
as
just
deep.
mad.
That's as deep as it goes.
That's it. That's what I'm frustrated about. And I'm just trying to take financial tips from people who are like, use the Taco Bell app or I'm going to have to start going to the Mexican place down the road. Exactly. I just needed some financial advice. And
you know what? A cheaper Taco Bell is, I think, the common ground.
Yeah. We need a Del Taco because Taco Bell is pricing me out.
But Del Taco sucks.
Well, right. In the same way that I need a CC's if Pizza Hut is going to get too expensive.
They both suck.
Yeah. Well, right. But one of them sucks.
I guess I'm not tracking.
One of them sucks for
they
less
both
money.
Suck. Yeah, one of them sucks for less and is bringing the prices of the other down.
I see. Okay.
That's what I need. A $5 all-you-can-eat buffet or $6 with the drink. I need that, even though it sucks, because then that gets me pizza.
Listen, I'm still upset that the $5 footlong isn't a thing.
Yeah,
you know? It's crazy.
I do think they're bringing that back. I heard maybe
I hope so.
On the app you can get, but they're going to make you buy two. But if you buy two, you get two $5 footlongs for 10.
I'll do that.
It's not a bad deal. I could eat two in a sitting, so that's not a problem.
I would absolutely buy that.
No, I think I agree. That's always been one of the nice parts about this, that we could talk about sports, all kinds of things. And that's one of the greatest parts about what we do here.
That is for sure. There's a lot we could talk about that happened over the holidays. I feel like that maybe needs to happen in one of our next episodes, even though it'll be untimely or intimely. I'm not sure how you say that. It's worth mentioning how great of a Christmas we had. I know I did. I had the Christmas of my 10-year-old self's dreams, and I'm excited to share all of that with you. But as we wind down, is there anything we want to talk about in terms of what's going on in media and entertainment? I got a few recommendations based on some movies I watched, but don't know if you guys have anything or excited about anything in the world of sport, movies, shows, any of that.
I'll say one thing. We've talked about the XFL before. The big news from the last couple weeks, the USFL and the XFL have merged to the UFL. And the first game of the new league, thank goodness for spring football, because it's going to give me something else to watch. The first game, March 30th, is going to be the champions from the two leagues playing each other in the new merged league.
Bring it
And
on.
there's 8 teams. And I think if I can remember correctly, I'm not going to remember the mascots, but there's 3 teams in Texas. There's 1 in Alabama, St. Louis, DC, Michigan, and maybe somewhere else like Arizona or Florida. But there's a decent mix. So if you're from the north, you're going to have like Michigan, St. Louis, DC to choose from. And then if you're in the south, there's going to be some options too. So I'm excited.
Indeed.
XFL is coming back as UFL.
Do you know if Dwayne The Rock Johnson is still involved in that?
He is. So him and Danny Garcia, who is his ex-wife, but also a business partner, and
Right.
she's super successful herself. They've said that like the leadership and the think tank and they all kind of merged 50-50, but him and Danny seem to kind of be running out ahead of this as the sort of like marketing train press, people
Okay.
figures of the whole thing. So
Smart.
while it might be 50-50 USFL and XFL, it feels like it's pretty much just them running the show.
As far as the public's concerned, what they're seeing is The Rock and
Danny Garcia. Yeah.
right.
But so yeah, UFL, very exciting. And is Canadian football around? Because I feel like if they could get Canadian
They've got
football,
something.
if they could merge in a few years and add a couple Canadian teams and do like UFL, like North America, and then have one big competitor, not even competitor. The Rock is really selling it like a companion league to the NFL.
Mhm.
Is how they're really selling it. I think
They could be filling a gap that the NFL is missing.
I think it could work. Absolutely. I think
yeah.
if they make it like a partnership and people can move up and down between the leagues as needed from a roster sharing standpoint, I think I'm looking forward to it. That's what I'll leave it at. We'll have plenty more time to talk about it.
Indeed.
Definitely newsworthy. Definitely in our sphere of what we talk about. Kendall, over to you, sir.
So speaking of The Rock, I just want to throw this little teaser out there because the WWE dangled it in front of everybody on day 1, Monday Night Raw, January 2nd or Monday, January 1st. The Rock makes an appearance, comes out, and speaks into the microphone in a way that no other wrestler, maybe Piper, but like The Rock has his way of talking and that has not been matched, and just gets the crowd absolutely riled up, speaking for like 10-15 minutes, and at the end appears to have challenged Roman Reigns. And I looked it up thinking, I'm not getting like tricked here, am I? Because he is old. like and I'm reading around, and it looks like something there is actually going to happen this year.
Oh, it's going to be on a big pay-per-view.
It's going to be on Peacock. That's how they do that now. So if you have Peacock, you can watch all of the special. You can watch WrestleMania this year, Royal Rumble, all that.
Corey, you guys have Peacock. There you go.
We do. That's exciting. Oh,
So, I mean, we've got the Rumble coming up. My guess is if that's actually going to happen, they're going to probably let it percolate for a little longer than that. Royal Rumble is right around Super Bowl season. WrestleMania comes later.
do a few like interrupt each other's fights and
interrupt each other's fights. He'll probably show up at the Rumble. And Roman Reigns is going to have a match at the Royal Rumble, but
The Rock,
so that would be a good opportunity.
Return. That's fascinating.
Yeah. Apparently, he was wanting the last time he made a return to the WWE, he got injured, and they had to like delay filming. I forget which film it was. They had to delay filming of Jumanji or something like that for like a really long time. And it cost a lot of money and it pissed a lot of people off. And so his contracts for movies have been barring him from wrestling. And so I don't know, maybe things are different now. Maybe he decided, or the WWE threw enough money at him that he's making movie money to go in and do this one match. I don't know what it is, but it looks like it's actually going to happen. They're not just blowing smoke.
I wonder if it's like a Hugh Grant situation. He was asked about doing the new Wonka movie, and he basically hated it, but admitted he has lots of kids to pay for. So maybe this is The Rock and UFL. Like, I need more UFL money. And so if I want to keep funneling money into that, I got to show up and do some matches.
But
So,
I mean, I don't feel like people are tired of seeing The Rock in films. Like,
That's true.
maybe there just aren't any good ones coming across his desk right now.
yeah. Maybe.
Fascinating. Speaking of old big things returning, I watched Godzilla Minus One, and it was fantastic. I went with a friend of the show, Greg Dillon, who's a gigantic Godzilla fan. We had him on. We talked all about Godzilla in a way back episode of this podcast. And I had seen in somewhere in my feed another geek culture podcast like ours talking about it. And the person talking said, it's not just good for Godzilla movies. And it's not just, I'm going to go ahead and say it, the best Godzilla movie ever made. It's a good movie for movies, and maybe the best of last year in this person's opinion. Very, very good. There was actually storylines that you care about, which from what I understand of that genre, that's not the most important part of those films. It's about big monsters breaking stuff. There was actually like meaningful, deep, beautiful, sad, make you cry, tear-jerking story. And oh, by the way, Godzilla demolishes buildings in a way that people who are fans of Godzilla movies also said, I was actually really scared of him. And like when he appeared, I got nervous and scared. The music, like it was really good. So Godzilla Minus One, catch it in theaters if you can. Wow, I had a lot of fun watching that. One of our friends of the show, Mike Steyer, had shared a funny little meme depicting the cast of The Thing, Kurt Russell, 1982. It's a great movie that takes place in Antarctica, and a monster gets loosed in this scientific base, and Kurt Russell and his friends have to stop the monster. There's been a remake since. I think that came out in 2011 that was actually meant to be a prequel to the cult classic from 82. It was actually really fun. So if you want, while it's wintertime and you want a movie that takes place in a wintry scene, it's a kind of monster, a little over the top, cheesy 80s horror film, go back and watch The Thing. And then Dillon, look this one up for me on IMDb while you're sitting there looking all beautiful with your Captain America hat. About Time from 2013. Colleague of mine, Lisa, recommended it. She said, Corey, I think you'll really like it. It's a good rom-com for you and Sherry to watch. So I watched it. Wow. Beautiful. Such a good movie.
I remember that one.
What's the cast again? The main guy?
Donald Gleason.
Donald Gleason.
Rachel McAdams is Mary.
Rachel
Bill
McAdams
Nye is the dad.
So Donald Gleason is one of the Weasleys. He's the oldest Weasley, I believe.
That sounds right.
In the Harry Potter franchise. Anyway, here's the quick premise. On his 21st birthday, his dad pulls him into a room and says, something I got to tell you, all of the men in our family have the ability to go back in time. And of course, like all of us would, the guy's like, yeah, right. He goes, laugh if you will. It's a real thing. You just go in a dark closet, clench your fists, imagine a time you want to go back to, and you can't. You can't go forward. You can only go backward. And there will be a butterfly effect, so you have to be careful about what you're doing, but you can go back in time. Yeah, right, whatever. Let me go prove to you you're wrong. He goes back to this party where he got embarrassed and sort of like gets to relive it, comes back and he's like, holy crap, this is real. And so anyway, the reason I liked it, it's a rom-com from the guy's point of view, which I think is an interesting spin. It's happened a few times before, but if you want a good rom-com to watch with your significant other, check out About Time from 2013. And one of my favorite topics last season of this podcast, not that we do seasons, but last year we said favorite scenes from movies and television shows that made you hungry or made you want to try a food. I have been loving Yellowstone. I am now halfway through season 3. It's one of the best shows. Kendall, you're so right. I'm like kind of frustrated. You didn't tell me sooner that I needed to really get on top of this show. But in one of the episodes, Rip makes some fry bread for Beth. And I was like, fry bread, Navajo fry bread. That looks really good. And he puts scrambled eggs and bacon on it. So I made fry bread the other day because I watched Rip do it in Yellowstone. And that show has me wrapped around its finger. I'm loving every minute of it, Jerry. So that's what I've been watching. And that's what's up in my world of media. Wow, we crammed a lot in.
We sure did. That's what you know the thing.
You know the thing. Somebody take us out. I facilitated this whole dang thing.
Artiusman.com is a website where guys with smelly, scraggly, unkempt beards can go, and they can buy themselves some products and some tools that'll help them out with that. And significant others, ladies, you can also buy that for them as a gift. Listen, I know that it's very possible that it seems like your man isn't the kind of guy that wants to groom his beard. But if you see him scratching his beard all the time, you need to get some moisturizer down to that skin. And Artius Man beard oils are just the thing. Balms and beard butters can also get the trick done. The way I look at it kind of depends on the length of your beard, but they also have other men's grooming products. They have candles that actually smell good that men are not going to hate, and other miscellaneous items. So get yourself over to artiusman.com. That's ARTUSMAN.com. When you go to checkout, make sure you put the middle in the little promo code box there. And if it's your first order, you're going to save 25%. That is 25%. And you're going to smell better, or your significant other is going to smell better. And I don't know if you've ever had somebody compliment you on the smell of your beard before, but it feels good.
It does feel good. And you know what else will feel good? When you tune in next week, we have a very special guest. I'm very excited about it. I'm just going to say it's somebody else who may or may not have a book on Amazon. So that's been a theme for us lately. A few episodes back, we had Chris Massey tell his story and tell us about his book. Be sure to tune in next week where we have a special guest talking about their book. And boy, is it going to be a fun conversation.
See you. Bye.
Bye.